Hello, and welcome to another episode of Wife for Life. Today, I am excited to bring you this business dynamo called Erin Brown. Welcome to the show, Erin.
Hello, Michelle. Thank you for such a wonderful introduction.
Oh, yes, I am so excited to share everybody with you and you with everybody because I just feel like you have a plethora of knowledge about how to be married and how to balance that out with also being a mother and a business dynamo. And I use that particularly because I feel like you have, since I've known you, always had a heart for people. So before
Mhm.
we get into that, I want you to tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Yes. So my name is Erin Brown. I am married to my high school sweetheart, Mike Brown. We have two children, Kyla and Sam, both high schoolers. I can't even believe it. And I think I would be self-titled as a serial entrepreneur. I
I love
have
it.
right. It's the most honest answer. Currently, my main area of business is design. So, Erin Brown Design. You could find me on Erin Brown Design on Instagram. But previously, my work has spanned from nonprofits to for profit retail and restaurants and bars. So different small businesses in very mostly in Arizona or California. And I also have ventured into real estate, and design has woven its way through all of those
Mm.
entrepreneurial areas, whether it's the design of the restaurant. I also ran a rental property that was part of the real estate and design because we renovated it in Arizona.
Yeah,
And it was a vacation rental, and then the market got hot, so I ended up selling it.
yeah.
um, so yeah, right now I am a designer and a wife and a mother. And I should mention that our eldest is a senior in high school, so I'm
Ooh.
currently not taking any design clients because I am taking these last few months just to treasure her at home. So,
Oh,
a little hiatus from my serial entrepreneurship.
I love it. I love it. And one
Yeah.
of the things, just to go back to come forward again, but one of
Mm,
the things that I absolutely love about you guys is just, I love when couples have been together since like
mm.
forever, like high school, elementary school, stories like that. So tell me a little bit about that. You guys been together, you said since high school?
Well, we're high school sweethearts. We did break
Okay.
up during college. So
Mhm.
we took a little separation time there. And then we had a mutual friend who was actually a business, a mutual best friend, I would almost say, who is our business partner in the restaurants. But
Okay.
back before any restaurants existed, when we were both still in college, his name is Frank. We would both talk to Frank about the other. And he was like, I just can't take it anymore. Somebody has to say something to the other one. You guys are both so stubborn.
Oh
So
my
I wrote him
God.
a letter. I wrote Michael a letter, and Frank was the
Okay.
delivery person. And
Go
I thought,
Frank.
yes, I know. He stepped into some big shoes there. Because it could have just been, crash and burn right there.
Mhm.
But that was the moment that Michael and I decided that we would start. I like to call it our adult relationship since we were no
Yeah.
longer in high school. We were now both in our senior years in college, and trying to think. Yeah, it was toward the end of senior year, and
Mhm.
then on in adulthood. And yeah, so we have been married now for almost 20 years in May. And
Woo!
I
That's awesome.
know it
Congratulations.
is. Thank
That
you.
that's huge. 20
It
years. I
is.
love it.
Yes.
So the
And
letter did it, right? The letter did the trick.
The letter got the door open, and then we
Okay.
all had to do the work thereafter. But yes, it created this a reintroduction, and I
Mhm.
think bottom line, as I said, I don't know why after all this time I'm still comparing people to a standard that I don't know where it's coming from, but I think it might be you.
What's
So
that?
it was his maturity in high school.
Yes.
Yeah, he was really mature at a very young age, and I was dating really nice guys that were great. They had no real big flaws, but it was kind of like, yeah, but, and I didn't really know where that yeah, but was coming from until it
Mhm.
kind of all came together of like, oh, it's him.
Mm. Ooh,
Yeah.
I like that. I like where you're going
Mhm.
with that because I just think about being single
Mm,
and being interested in different guys or the thought of a guy being there, in that
mhm,
capacity for you. But then
mhm,
I even think even further with Frank saying both of you guys were stubborn and you making a choice to write this letter, and
mhm,
sometimes how we may not be able to get our words out, verbally, but
mhm,
written form,
mhm,
we might
mhm.
be able to do some things. Like, what made you choose the letter? What made the letter better than just confronting him face to face?
Exactly what you said. I didn't think, well, there was 2 things. Number 1, I wanted to say all the things, not just 1 or 2 and get sidetracked. But
Yeah.
to be honest, I didn't wanna be rejected to my face.
Come on.
It felt like a big risk,
Yep.
of saying, "Hey, after all this time, I don't know why I'm still, thinking of you the way that I am, and,
Mm.
uh, would you be interested in pursuing this long distance?" So I think it was really kind of, it was, it felt like a good way to be true to my heart, to honor
Mhm.
what I was feeling and thinking, but also kind of a little safety, like the bumper lanes on the bowling.
Yes. I think it's cool too because if I recall correctly, isn't Mike an introvert?
Oh, yes. Yes,
Big
well,
time.
but he's also, a performer, so, like, if he has a
Mm.
stage, it doesn't seem like he's an introvert, but yes, he
Yeah,
very, very much is one.
got you. So 9 times out of 10, maybe he wouldn't have taken the first step. You had to do that, huh?
Well, I should say he did send me flowers on, Valentine's Day of our senior year. So, he did take the first step because I was
Okay.
dating someone at the time, and I ended up
Mhm,
breaking up with him. And I think that's what gave me the sort of, courage to go
mhm.
forward and say, "Okay, he's still thinking about me, clearly, there's flowers that came." So that was, he opened the door, and I just,
He
or maybe
opened the
he
door.
he put a door there and I slid a letter under it.
I love it. However we phrase it, the point
Mhm.
is that he opened the door and you took a step toward
Mm.
him.
Yes.
And that's the beauty of it, just knowing that I may not be willing to speak these words, but I'll write them. And
Mhm.
then the next move is on him.
That's right.
You know what I
That's
mean?
right.
But just
Yes.
encouraging some of the women because I know some women would have said, no, he's supposed to make all the steps toward me,
Mm.
or would have maybe even forgotten his first step of giving flowers
Mhm.
and missed the opportunity to be in the relationship of a lifetime. So
Yeah.
I just love hearing different stories and pulling out those little tidbits that we could use if we just really just sit and listen,
Mm.
to what the Lord is telling us to do. We actually might be talking to our helpmate right now.
Right?
You know
We
what I'm
might
saying?
be.
So
Yes.
yeah. So that's a little bit of encouragement for some of the other ladies listening. But also, man, you guys are like coming on 20 years. That's a long time.
It is, it is. It is no exaggeration to say we grew up together.
Wow. Well, definitely if known each other since high school, you definitely went through some formidable years together.
Mhm.
And in that,
Mm.
knowing that 20 years, 2 decades is such a long time, and it gives a lot of space for change as we
Mm.
grow up, as we
Mhm.
mature together. How
Mhm.
would you say you've handled that? Like, what would you say helped you grow up in the best way during marriage and for the marriage?
Jesus. No, no
I
joke.
hear you.
Yeah, literally. I mean, and it's I did come to Christ during our marriage, and so did he.
Mm,
Um, so it was really important, and I think in any relationship, and I think even it will resonate with a non-believer, that your partner, your spouse will not fulfill everything in you.
mm,
Um, yeah. And for me, it was understanding the grace that I've received from the Lord, and that there are just some things that won't be able to be understood on this side of heaven, and that I have to really accept God's intervention in that. Like the mercy, the love, everything that is perfect from the Lord, it
yeah.
has to have a place in our marriage because neither of us are perfect.
Mm. That is so true. That is so true and so powerful. And just going into marriage with that level of understanding, I feel like, man, you're ahead of the game already.
Mm,
You have a solid foundation if you can go into it knowing that you're two fallible human beings and
mhm.
in need of grace and God's
Yes.
grace and grace from each other. So I,
Yes.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that has been you guys' mode of operation and offering that to each other. How do you think that has impacted the children? Do you think they've learned from you, or in what way do they see that grace and then begin to mimic it? What would you say?
Well, I mean, we just had a beautiful conversation with our daughter last night. Um, the reality is that our children are, every single day that we're married, they are older than we will have ever been when our parents got divorced, because both Michael and I come
Wow.
from divorced homes.
Mm,
And so we have four parents, right? And all four parents got, well, except for my mom, got remarried. So at one point we had seven grandparents, and then there
wow.
was another divorce, and then another marriage. So then there was eight grandparents.
Mm,
So just how, how they've benefited is seeing, living in a household where the parents are married,
mhm.
where neither of us really say we have all the answers. We really do lean on one another of, hey, you've got to talk to dad about this, or maybe mom has something to say. um and seeing us work through hard times. I mean, just all of the nuances of relationship. I'm always a big fan of various perspectives. So, a childhood with married parents gives
Mm,
you two perspectives in the same household,
yeah.
which isn't something that I necessarily had growing up. And I was able to raise our kids with a knowledge of Christ and in a knowledge of the Bible, and introduce them at a really young age. Because let's see, I think, about 32 when I came to Christ. So my daughter was 4. Our daughter
Wow.
was 4. So yeah, just that sweetness. It was a real gift.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of questions with either no answers or hard answers, and for me, pointing them back to God and the Word, um, it doesn't make it easy, but it makes it clear.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I agree with you. Faith has such a strong place in our relationships, and I love the fact that you're really like stressing that, hey, that's what's got to be the center for me. that's what's got to be the center for our family. And that's what's the joy in raising children, is introducing them to their own personal relationship with God.
Mhm.
That's got to be pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
such a gift.
Yes. And speaking of gifts, man, I just want to share the gift of the business side of Erin with everyone. So tell me, okay, so how long did Mike play football?
He played for 10 years.
Okay, for
So,
10
what is
years.
yeah, and what is the average, 3 years or 2 point something?
Yeah, it's
I
less
don't know.
than 3 for
Okay.
sure.
So
So,
that's like 5, 4 to 5 times the average. It was
mhm,
crazy long in
yeah.
retrospect. During the time, we didn't know any different.
For sure. And I think with most players, that's their minimum go to. They all hope to at least play 10 years. So,
Mm,
yeah, 10 years is a good long time. And
mhm.
at what point during those 10 years, or even if it was before those years, did the business bug hit you?
Okay. Well, as I said, I'm a serial entrepreneur.
I love that.
And yeah, and so um, before it was probably after we were married that felt a level of comfort and support of a spouse to
Yeah.
go out on my own and explore different interests and pursuits.
Mhm.
I had shared
Now, is
with
that
you.
what you went to school for?
So I do have a degree in business operations management, which
Okay.
is essentially like efficiency and total quality management. And
Mm.
the irony is that when I got out of college, I worked in nonprofit in a couple of different companies, the Muscular Dystrophy Association, and then
Mm.
the Chicago Children's Choir when I was in Chicago.
Wow.
And the tough thing about nonprofit is you generally don't have enough money to be efficient. So it
Yep.
kind of felt like I had this degree that I couldn't do anything with because I was doing heart led work, but there very much was a business side to both of them.
Mm.
And my first, I guess, sort of endeavor in within the context of the Chicago Children's Choir was merch. I introduced merchandise to the choir
Nice.
um, as I wanted them to have a, a profitable revenue, like an earned revenue stream.
Yes.
But my real job for them was planning tours and events and helping support all the program behind the scenes of like getting the choir to the places. They did some
Oh.
international tours, they did national and regional tours. I didn't do the international, I just did the regional, and then a New York tour to Carnegie Hall.
Oh, nice.
Yes,
I
yes.
love that.
Yeah,
Okay. Awesome. So you just kind of dibbled and dabbled in it. Oh, I see. I see the
that was
mastermind at work.
that was the beginning. And then my real first entrepreneurial enterprise would probably have been our I'm trying to think. It would probably have been we invested in a friend's restaurant, which I'm just telling you that is a bad idea.
Okay.
And especially after running restaurants. I jokingly say that because I called our friend Frank and I said, "Hey, I'm going to be on a podcast. What would you tell people who would like to start a restaurant?" Now, mind you,
Yeah.
he's very successful. He has, I think, 2 restaurants and 3 or 4 bars at this point. He's been in the
Okay.
game for 15 years as an owner and then
Mm.
previous, bartending, and his answer was, "Don't do it."
Don't do it. And why is that? Why should they steer clear of restaurants?
Well, it was a painful learning curve, I think, for all of us because, and I think it can be an entrepreneurial lesson with a through vein for any business.
Mhm.
You really need to have a good support system around you,
Mm.
and you need to know your costs and how to price things
Mm.
like a pro, and you have to be great at marketing. So it's like all of a sudden you
Yes.
take this little seed of I love food and hospitality, and
Mhm.
then all of a sudden you have to be a business manager, you have to
Yeah.
be a human manager, human resources manager. I mean,
Mhm.
a cost of goods sold. I mean, it's just everything. So
Mhm.
it's a very cumbersome business, and the margins are quite small. So it can be challenging.
Yeah.
I think that's why there is light at the end of the tunnel, but it can definitely be challenging.
Mm. I can understand that. And just from and initially you said, did I hear you correctly say initially you guys were investors? Were you silent investors or no?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. We
Okay.
were silent investors, and two things happened. Number one, I saw, and this was before the doors even opened, and he was just sharing with me, okay, well, we're doing X, Y, and Z to set up the business, and I would just ask, well, why? You know,
Mm,
what is that? What purpose is that serving? And he would explain it, and I would just simply provide, okay, I see, in agreement. Okay, that sounds great, sure. Or
mhm.
have you thought about this? And simultaneously, he was sending me pictures of the interior, and I was like, what are you
What
doing?
is that? Right.
No, he has a good eye. I'm halfway teasing with that, but I did give suggestions with the interior. I thought, you know what? What about this, or what about placing this here? So just again, kind of partnering
Mm,
up, and he had ears to hear me. He was willing to. He was very receptive to the things that came across, and that's what made a good partnership ultimately for us moving forward.
yeah. And it sounds like too, it's like you're falling into your actual purpose. Like,
Mhm.
you're taking these steps, you're keeping your feet moving, but you're
Mhm.
kind of like falling into this design space to say, oh, you
Yes.
know what, I think this is my first love. Is that what I'm detecting?
Yes, yes, it absolutely is. Because what ended up happening over the course of 10 years was exactly that. I moved out of the business side of restaurants and bars and strictly focused on residential design. But it was a process and of going through the restaurants, entering into understanding the business aspects, and really, when I say understanding the business aspects, it's truly repetitions. You could
Mm,
even compare it to sports. If you've just got to take some reps, you've got to take some losses, some wins. And then I really realized when push came to shove, and it was before the pandemic,
mm,
but at a time in my own life and in our family life, that it was like, where is the balance? What is this giving me, and what is this giving my family, as opposed to
mm.
what is it taking from me and taking from my family? And are there parts I can keep, and are there parts that I can get rid of?
Wow. I love that. I love that. And it sounds like because you kind of started off giving us a little snippet of that when it comes to what you're doing right now, the SoCal, right, project?
Yeah, Project SoCal Casa is actually this home that I'm sitting in right now. Um,
Awesome.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Do you
and
want
it
me to?
sounds like you're working on that project, but you also service clients. But this year, because your daughter's older and in that final year with you guys, you decided not to take clients. Is that right?
Yes, yes. So this project started 3 years ago, if you can believe. If I can believe
And
that.
what tell us, what is this project?
Yes. So we purchased a home in San Clemente where we live, and it basically was a gut remodel.
Mm,
And again, because I had moved into residential design specifically, it was an opportunity for me to sort of, and I think any designer would agree that when you do your own home, it's the opportunity to do all the things that maybe clients would get a little scared of or would
mhm,
shy away from. And so it was really, this is my resume, if you will, or one aspect of it. And again, that serial entrepreneurship kind of came in, and unintentionally, I started, I guess, maybe another enterprise in terms of partnering with corporations to place their products in the home. So I have
Mm.
partnerships with a lighting company, a faucet company, a flooring company, a tile company, and
Wow.
I think that is all. Yeah. And it was sort of just born out of, again, seeing opportunity there of, hey, would you be interested in placing your products in a designer's home in a
Wow.
complete gut remodel? So I hesitate to use the word influencer,
Uh-huh.
but it's really sort of a micro marketing. I'm a part of their marketing team, if you will, on an
Mhm.
individual basis.
I
So
love that, Erin. That's pretty phenomenal.
it is something, Michelle. I don't know. I
It's freaking phenomenal business sense is what it is. The product
Thank
placement
you.
and just the mindset to even come up with that.
Mm,
Because things have changed so much with
mhm.
social media marketing now being
Yeah.
prevalent and how to monetize that and capitalize on that within the confines of your passion,
Yes.
is phenomenal. I mean,
Thank
not a
you.
bit short of phenomenalness.
Thank you. I
I
did
can't
forget it.
say that enough.
Well, thank you. I forgot appliance company.
An
Yes, so that's yeah.
appliance. Wow, wow, wow. That's
Yeah.
amazing. And even to get to that point, I know at some point you did a project in Arizona that you
Yes.
were renting out, right?
Yes. Yes. So
And how did
that
that
was
come about?
yes. Okay, so that was let's see. So this is Project SoCal Casa. That was the AZ residence, hashtag the AZ residence.
Mhm.
And that came about because at the time we were I should own it. I wanted to spend more time with our family and friends in Arizona, and Michael was agreeable. So we
Mhm.
purchased a home and renovated it. It was an older home. It had kind of a facelift in the 90s. I kind of say it had a bad mullet from the 90s.
Mhm.
So we renovated that home. And in order to monetize it when we weren't there, I contacted a local vacation rental company, and they put it on their marketplace in terms of they had the website, they had all the framework. And one thing I
Wow.
will tell any of your listeners who are interested in any sort of business related field, as they learn and grow about their own strengths, hire once you find weaknesses, hire for your weaknesses.
Mm.
Um, and so the AZ residence, I knew one of my weaknesses was obvious. It was location. We live in California, and that was going to be in Arizona. So I couldn't, change the sheets every time that there was a change in guests.
Yeah.
And I also don't love all the bookkeeping side of
Mm.
the business or any business. So that would be another piece of advice I would say. And I do actually have 5 people that anybody who's interested in starting a business should have on their team. I'll save that, but
Mhm.
one of them is an accountant. So they had all that's to say is that the management company had a framework in place for the maintenance, the overhaul, the in between guest turnover, and the accounting. And it was really a good setup.
Yeah.
And as life would happen, the market got hot in Arizona, and we saw an opportunity to really make a nice profit.
Yeah.
And it that's one of
Yeah.
those houses that's like the one that got away.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, I love
Yeah.
that house."
It was beautiful. I mean, stunning. But
Thank you.
man, when you can make a good profit, what
Yeah.
can compare with that?
Yeah. Again,
you
if
know?
we claim to be in business, we do wanna make a profit.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I noticed about you that I always loved and admired is you always led in a heart giving kind of way.
Mm,
So when I say that, what I mean is, when we would do Bible study, particularly wives study or couple study, you were always so generous. You were willing to offer your home. you were willing to help facilitate in whatever way that was necessary. But there was one thing in particular that I thought you did that was fantastic. And sometimes everything that's a good business is not always necessarily lucrative,
That's
but
right.
I thought it was excellent way to pour into the best capital, which is human capital.
Mhm.
And that was when you wanted to do a give back to the next generation of wives,
Mhm.
and you rented out a spa and got a sponsor to help create a package that was just full of stocked with information for wives who were new to, football or moved to a new state. Just what I want to know, what made you think about that, come up with the concept, and then execute it.
Oh gosh. Well, thank you for even remembering that, Michelle. That was special. It was so long ago now. I don't exactly remember all of the details, but the broad scope was we were there for 10 no, we were there for 9 seasons, and it was like you could kind of make friends and they would come and go, and there would be, luncheons that maybe the team would host, but there wasn't a lot of opportunity for ladies to get together unless other wives were inviting people, and, I was I just think people are so precious. And if all
Mm.
the wives and girlfriends and significant others really got to know each other each season on the team, and if we could kind of eliminate the drama, and if we could kind of, you know, things we can't kind of do, but if we could really just be there for one another in the sense of create community. We understand this is a very transient community, that we're all very different. We're coming from different places. We have different interests, but we do
Mhm.
have a really common, unique aspect of life in that moment, in that year. And so I think that's what led into, you know what, hey, I we were coming back maybe for a game, I think, and I just thought, I would love to get some women together. I wanted it to be at a place that felt like a low bar in terms of intimidation, because sometimes going over to someone's house, you might feel like, well, I've never even spoken to that person before. I don't feel
Mhm.
comfortable walking into their home. So I thought this salon would be fun, and it was free pedicures. So who doesn't love a free pedicure?
Man, I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah, yeah, and that was just really, really a sweet moment, and just being able to, yeah, gather ladies together. And my hope was that even if a few more people knew each other's names or spoke to one another in the family room, that it would make it all the more positive experience, in a healthy environment, and in
Yeah.
case stuff goes down. I mean, goodness, Michelle, the things that we saw. I mean, we saw a friend's baby get life flighted to a hospital. We've seen, I
Yeah.
mean, just with the players, we've seen injuries. Just to have
Yeah.
that local support system. Women are having babies left, right, and center, and it's like nobody's near their parents or family. And so, yeah, it was
Mhm.
just trying to do something to bring people together.
Yeah. Man, well, that was probably the most generous,
Hmm.
thoughtful gesture that I've seen since.
Wow, thank
Yeah,
you.
seriously, wife to wife, that was the real deal. That's what it's
Mm,
all about. It's all about this. Yes, it begins about the fraternity of football,
mm,
but once you're a part of that, you're a part of that,
that's right.
and when we move to a strange town, a strange place. A lot of times we don't have family members to support that journey. So
Mhm.
so yeah, that was pretty phenomenal. Well, I
Thank
mean,
you.
I just think about 20 years of marriage, and you guys played at a couple of different towns for football, but also have had businesses in different places and children and 20 years, what would you say is the most important thing or things that a wife needs to create longevity in her marriage? What would you say those things
Mm.
are?
Oh, there's so many. Uh, One of the answers is not really an answer because it's sort of a journey. It would be maturity. And that is something where it's really a season, season after season of getting to know yourself first and know, I needed to know where my temptations were, where my shortfalls, where my habitual kind of my favorite sin, if you will, laid so that I could stand before the Lord first
Mm,
and foremost and just, like, oh, geez, it's here again,
mm.
one of my favorite sins, and it starts with the inside, is being critical. And I start with being critical to myself. And I
Woo.
know that if I have, oh, I know, trust me. And I know that if I haven't really come clean with that and brought it to the Lord and worked through it, that then that critical nature will just everywhere.
Mm. Come
That's not good
on,
for any.
Aaron.
It's not good for anyone. It's not good
You
for anyone.
you are preaching. You better say that again. It's not good for ourselves or to our spouses or our children or anyone else for that matter. And
Right, right.
I love how you said that.
Well, I mean, and it's also in the verse of love your neighbor as you love yourself. And I feel like we forget that the first part of that is we need to know how to love ourselves. It
Mm,
didn't say know how to pamper yourself. It didn't say spoil, it doesn't say be the star. It says love. And, the Bible also talks about what is love. It's patient, it's kind, it doesn't keep a record of wrongs. And when you point all that back to yourself, you've got
mhm.
nothing but grace left and humility and like laying flat on my face, like, oh Lord, thank you. Goodness.
I love it. I love it. I love it, especially the laying flat on your face because, I had a newlywed couple who
Mm,
the wife thought, oh my goodness, I think I've made a mistake. We're having issues already. And she thought, oh, I'm doing this all wrong. And I
mm,
said, no way. We all go through issues. And it doesn't matter if it's newlyweds to 30 years married,
mm,
to engage to, whatever that may
mhm.
look like. We all have our shortcomings and we all need, grace to overcome, and just
Yes.
being a helpmate for each other is
Yes.
phenomenal, and that's impossible to do if we're not doing what we need to for ourselves. And I love how you
Mhm.
said it. It's not spoiling myself, you know,
Mm,
but it is
mhm.
taking care of myself so that
That's
I
right.
am equipped to take care of those in my family, my
Yes.
husband, my children, and whoever else that may entail. Right?
Yes. Yes. And I will say that as a businesswoman, is somebody with a voice who people will listen to, and I help guide culture in terms of company culture.
Mm-hmm.
uh, it can become a really big temptation for me to feel like I have that same guiding voice in our family.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I need to take a step back and just understand, okay, I am half of an equation, and my voice isn't the only one, and it isn't the most important one, and it isn't
Ooh,
the one that's been here the longest. But it's my voice is important,
yeah.
certainly. But yeah, again, just
Ooh.
that critical nature, it really it can go from, yeah, right, it can go from looking over profit and loss statements to why are you loading the dishwasher that way, and it's like,
Yes.
at least
Oh,
you're
I
loading
love
the
it.
dishwasher.
Exactly, right? Oh man,
Yeah.
now I know for sure we have to have you back again because I mean you are dropping some heavy nuggets on that
Mm,
last one right there, Aaron. Because seriously, just because you feel this role it professionally, right? Just because you
Mhm.
feel this role professionally doesn't mean you feel that role personally. And we do
Mm-mm.
have to be careful that we're not bringing that same energy home. And
Mhm.
not that something is wrong with that energy, it's just not appropriate for that particular location.
Right, right. I wasn't hired to be the anything of the anything. I don't have a business card in this house that gives me, and we have roles. There's certain definitely where he'll defer to me and I defer to him, but
Right.
to just point blank say I'm going to be the final of everything is it's delusional. And I spent
Yeah.
a lot of our early years of marriage kind of feeling like I didn't have a voice. First,
Mm.
you know, when he was playing, he was in his purpose, right? He was
Mhm.
like in it. And I really had this sense of jealousy, not that he was successful in doing his thing, but that I didn't have a thing.
Yes.
Um, right. And so it felt like, okay, I'm just kind of like swimming through this cloudiness and I
Mhm.
don't know my identity anymore. I used to work for the children's choir. I used to be a student and now I'm a wife, which I've never been that before, so
Mm.
what does that look like?
Right. Right.
Yeah, and on and on. So yeah, it's just like you said at the top of the conversation. Our we've just continued. We've grown up and continue to evolve with each other.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's good. That's good.
Mhm,
And allowed each other to evolve, and that's
mhm,
even better.
mhm,
I love it. I love it. I love everything that you just said, and um just oh my goodness, recognizing that you had issues not with your husband but with wanting more from yourself and for
mhm,
yourself, and
mhm,
that doesn't and shouldn't take away from our role as wife, as mother,
mhm,
as friend, as daughter, as sibling, and all those other hats. But if we don't pay
mhm.
attention to what we need on the inside, then it'll be very difficult to be there for the other people in our lives fully and
That's right.
holistically.
That's right. Yes.
So, man, yeah, for sure. I just feel like we have to do a round two, because we could go a whole nother 30 minutes just talking about, you know, purpose, and finding
Yes.
our purpose. And I love that. Um, First of all, that you were blessed with the opportunity to figure that out. But also I love that you took pause enough to figure yourself out so you could articulate that to your
Mhm.
husband and to your family, and make that happen for you, and obviously to the father, with his blessings on it as well. So, okay, one last thing. When you think
Yes.
about being a wife for life,
Mm.
what would you suggest to our listeners and our viewers? What would a wife for life look like now that you've experienced 20 years married?
Gosh. Grateful and humble. And God, yeah, just that humility of they are grown, your partner is grown, and they can do certain things different, and there might be a temptation at some point. I know that, and it's part of my critical nature in
Mhm.
terms of I have this one cue. Actually, I have two cues. One is for PMS, and one is for my critical nature.
Okay. I
I'm gonna,
love it.
and this is too much information, but if when I know that I have PMS, I can hear my husband chew his food, and that is a cue to me that I need to just take a minute. Take a minute, Michelle. Okay, that's the too much. Sorry,
Okay.
but
No,
my
that's a
other
good one
cue,
though.
right?
Mhm.
My other cue is that if I'm kind of in a management mode or just bulldozing Erin or just not really in a partnership place, my
Right.
other cue is when I try to tell him where to park in a parking lot. I'm like, the Lord has given me legs that work. He is a grown man. He decides where to park every other time he parks this vehicle. And so I think you just need to make something simple that you're like, oh, this is in me. I'm recognizing
Yes.
this.
Oh my
And
goodness.
yeah, so those are, maybe that would be find your cues. Get to
Find
know
your
yourself.
cues. I
Mhm.
love that. Find your cues. That is so powerful. Oh my God, I love that one. That's like my favorite thing. Find your cues. Because really those cues are kind of like triggers too, finding out the things that trigger you. But cues is from a much more positive place. I like that. Find your cues. When you become analytical, wait, Michelle,
Mhm.
reel that back in. That's
Mhm.
indicative of something that you need to work on before you interact with others.
Right?
I love
Yes.
it. I love it, particularly your husband, because then
Mhm.
that's when we begin to communicate with disrespect or, just
Mhm.
hurtful things that we maybe not intend for it to come out that way, but nonetheless,
That's right.
I love
Yeah.
it. I love those
Yeah.
cues. I'm using that. I'm totally
Oh,
using that moving forward. Is that okay? Do I have your permission?
please, please. I encourage everyone to find their cues.
Awesome. I love
And
it.
before we end, I do just want to thank you. You were a critical person in my life to help bring me to the Lord. And
Oh,
the Bible study that you hosted for our team, I bypassed for way too many years. And the first time that I finally got in there, the Lord used it, and He's just like, okay, come on now. And you are just the sweetest, kindest, and most generous soul. So thank you for all the work that you
oh.
have poured into countless lives, including my own. So thank you.
Oh, thanks, Erin. Thank you so much for sharing that, for saying that.
Mhm.
I appreciate that. And I just, like you said, I have lots of gratitude to the Lord for giving me the opportunity, to pour into you ladies in that way. I didn't know I had it in me, Erin. I knew I had a voice, but I was still in my own right trying to find my purpose as well as my children were beginning to grow older, like you guys are
Mhm.
experiencing now. So, thank you for sharing that, and thank you for affirming me. In
Mhm.
that way, I'm not a big words of affirmation person, but I do take it in when I get it. I'm very intentional to do that. So thank you so much. And thank you
My
so much
pleasure.
for being on the podcast and sharing all this good information for these business women out here, these serial entrepreneurs that are out here like
Yes.
you.
Yes. Thank
I
you,
appreciate it.
Michelle.
And I'm looking forward to hopefully getting you another time to talk about some other good nuggets that you dropped in a little bit more detail. But in the
Yes.
meantime, thank you so much. And I hope your project SoCal, I feel like I'm missing something. Casa?
SoCal Casa. SoCal Casa.
SoCal Casa. First of all, I'm loving those shells, the open floating
Thank
shells. Those
you.
look great.
Yes.
And
Thank you.
I've been kind of trekking with you, so I'm looking forward to seeing the final project
Thank you. I am as
that's coming
well.
up
And thank
soon.
Yes, yes. Hopefully. Hopefully. We've got to
Okay.
work out a few details. But yeah.
All right. Well, listen. Thanks again. I appreciate you. We're gonna make sure and put your social media tag on the end of the video, but
Mhm.
I don't know about you guys, but I always get so much from Erin when she joins me, when we get to talk and hang out periodically. So I hope you guys did too. And I just want to thank you guys again for watching another episode of Wife for Life. Hey, shoot me any comments, any questions, any topics of conversation that you'd like to discuss, any feedback you can. Give it to me. I'll take it. I love it and I appreciate it. Thank you guys again. This is Michelle McElroy, your host, checking out.